Welcome back to Chapter Day. Happy Sabbath. I pray you had a blessed week. And if you maybe had a rough week, trust me, we still believe that God was leading us and keeping us, keeping us in some way. And He's going to recompense whatever it is we forfeited in the way of happiness. And He commanded us today to rest because we need to revive our minds, bodies, and spirits, which are God's. So let's try our best and do that. Put everything aside. Shut off the radio, the TV if you need to, unless you're watching something inspirational or uplifting, okay? And let's do this for ourselves. God gave us this for us. Okay, so today I'm going to be reading Psalm 78 by itself because it's kind of lengthy. So let's begin. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children, showing to the generation to come the praises of the Lord, and His strength, and His wonderful works that He has done. For He established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which He commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children, that the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep His commandments, and might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God. The children of Ephraim, being armed and carrying bows, turned back in the day of battle. They kept not the covenant of God and refused to walk in His law. Now these are all verses that sounds familiar, that are kind of going back into time as to what God had done for the children of Israel since bringing them out of Egypt. How He had Moses write down all of the events that took place, that He would give it to the children, pass it on from generation to generation. He told them that they were to tell their children, read it to their children continually, so that they would always be aware of how God has worked with them in the past and will work with them once they continue walking with God. Verse 11, and forgot His works and His wonders that He had showed them. Marvelous things did He in the sight of their fathers in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. He divided the sea and caused them to pass through, and He made the waters to stand as an heap. In the day also He led them with a cloud, and all the night with a light of fire. He clave the rocks in the wilderness, and gave them drink as out of the great depths. He brought streams also out of the rock, and caused waters to run down like rivers. And we remember the number of times He allowed Moses and Aaron to provide water, that He provided water through Moses and Aaron for the children of Israel, which even caused Moses his place in the land of Canaan, because he was so angry he struck the rock instead of speaking to the rock, and God cut him off from the land of Canaan. Verse 17, and they sinned yet more against Him by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. And they tempted God in their heart by asking meat for their lust. All of these things we remember reading earlier on when the children of Israel were coming out of Egypt. Verse 19, yea, they spake against God. They said, can God furnish a table in the wilderness? Behold, He smote the rock that the waters gushed out and the streams overflowed. Can He give bread also? Can He provide flesh for His people? Do we do that sometimes? We are so adamant sometimes as to God's ability to work in our lives after we have seen multiple times. But you know what? We have such short-term memories, just like these children of Israel. God just did something for us last week. He did something for us yesterday. And still we're asking, can God do this today? You know, yes, He can. All the time, God can and God will. But just like the children of Israel, we doubt, because they're challenging a God that parted an entire sea for them to walk on dry land, asking if he could provide them with bread in the wilderness. He provided them with water from a rock, but can he provide bread? Where is our faith? God help us. Verse 21. Therefore the Lord heard this and was wroth. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also came up against Israel. Man, do we tempt God. Verse 22. Because they believed not in God and trusted not in his salvation. Though he had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven, and he rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. He caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and by his power he brought in the south wind. He rained flesh also upon them as dust, and feathered fowls like as the sand of the sea. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp round about their habitations. So they did eat and were filled, for he gave them their own desire. They were not estranged from their lust, but while their meat was yet in their mouths, the wrath of God came upon them, and slew the fattest of them, and smote down the chosen men of Israel. For all this they sinned still, and believed not for his wondrous works. Therefore their days did he consume in vanity, and their years in trouble. When he slew them, then they sought him, and they returned and inquired early after him. And they remembered that God was their rock, and the high God their Redeemer. Do we do that a lot of times when we hit rock bottom, when things are so bad that we and no one else we know can help us with anything? Then we remember God is there. We shouldn't do that. Verse 36, nevertheless, they did flatter him with their mouth, and they lied unto him with their tongues. Whatsoever God says we will do is what they said to Moses, yeah? Verse 37, for their heart was not right with him, neither were they steadfast in his covenant. But he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity, and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away, and did not stir up all his wrath. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away, and cometh not again. How oft did they provoke him in the wilderness, and grieve him in the desert? Yea, they turned back and tempted God, and limited the Holy One of Israel. They remembered not his hand, nor the day when he delivered them from the enemy. How he had wrought his signs in Egypt, and his wonders in the field of Zoan. And he turned their rivers into blood, and their floods that they could not drink. He sent divers sorts of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs which destroyed them. He gave also their increase unto the caterpillar, and their labor unto the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sycamore trees with frost. He gave up their cattle also to the hail, and their flocks to hot thunderbolts. He cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, and indignation, and trouble, by sending evil angels among them. He made a way to his anger. He spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength, in the tabernacles of Ham, but made his own people to go forth like sheep, and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. And he led them on safely, so that they feared not. But the sea overwhelmed their enemies, and he brought them to the border of his sanctuary, even to this mountain, which his right hand had purchased. He cast out the heathen also before them, and divided them an inheritance by line, and made the tribes of Israel to dwell in their tents. Yet they tempted and provoked the Most High God, and kept not his testimonies. You know what? This sounds just like us today. No matter what God did for us, we still we tend to turn our backs on him. And we would say one thing, yes, we will trust in God, yes, we will do his will. Or after God deliver us from something, we say, yes, we pledge, we would work and do what God says. And when things are going okay, we just give up. We don't follow God's will. We don't do his word. We cannot talk about the children of Israel. We are just like them. Just like them. Oh, mercy. Verse 57. But turned back and dealt unfaithfully like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow. For they provoked him, excuse me. They provoked him to anger with their high places and moved him to jealousy with their graven images. When God heard this, he was wroth and greatly abhorred Israel, so that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh. Excuse me. My goodness. Oh, fall weather. Which he placed among men, and delivered his strength into captivity, and his glory into the enemy's hand. He gave his people over also unto the sword, and was wroth with his inheritance. The fire consumed their young men, and their maidens were not given to marriage. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentation. Then the Lord awaked as one out of sleep, and like a mighty man that shouted by reason of wine, and he smote his enemies in the hinder parts. He put them to a perpetual reproach. Moreover, he refused the tabernacle of Joseph, and chose not the tribe of Ephraim, but chose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Zion, which he loved. And he built his sanctuary like high palaces, like the earth which he hath established forever. He chose David also his servant, and took him from the sheepfolds. From following the ewes great with the young, he brought him to feed Jacob his people, and Israel his inheritance. So he fed them according to the integrity of his heart, and guided them by the skillfulness of his hands. This is like a recount of how God led Israel, and how God chose leaders and chose people to rule his flock, to lead his flock, that we might have said, why would God choose him or her? And we know we do that today. Why is that really a true person? You know, we question the integrity of some of God's leaders, and we are always questioning. People are always questioning the integrity of God's leaders. And some of them really do put themselves in the spotlight to be questioned. But for the most part, God sets up and he takes down. And that's not just for how should I say, for anyone in religious circles. It's worldwide. Leaders in the world, God has allowed them. He may not have purposely said, well, this is who I want, but this is what God allows. And whatever he does, God has a plan. Even today, God has a plan. And prophecy has been foretold as to what is to come, even for this great country of America. Times are coming when things are going to unfold that are already written in scriptures, and we need to read and know. So when it comes, we aren't taken by surprise or, deceived. So we are ready. And that's what the scriptures are for. Thank you all once again for listening. I pray you are reading. That was a long song. That was a long psalm. That was 72 or so verses. Some of them are really long, some of them are really short. So I can double up on the short ones, but the long ones, I just do them by themselves. But I thank you all once again for listening, for viewing, for commenting, for subscribing. And whenever you can, get your Bible, follow along, or follow up, whichever you choose to do. And until then, remember, enjoy the day. It's the Sabbath, and God said rest. Okay? And keep on hearing God's word, because that's how our faith grows. Take care. Bye.